Jacksonville Buzz is raising the bar. I'm Steve Strum. This morning we have Alisa Wilkes from Wilkes and Me Law Firm, correct? PLLC, to say it correctly.
That's correct.
All right, we were talking a little offset. You are a lawyer that specializes in incidents that happen involving the railroad. Is that a fair way to say that? Both for people that work for a railroad and then people that got, that are involved in incidents that happen that are just, people driving down the street. Interesting area of law. It sounds like it's quite specialized. What is so special about railroad law?
Well, it's kind of akin to trucking law. There's a lot involved with the rules and regulations centered around railroads and railroading. So that's what makes it such a specialized area of the law. It is under the Federal Employer Liability Act. So employees that get hurt on the railroad, certain employees, they do not have workers' comp. Their redress is through the court system. And so that's where I come in, as I represent the employees, or I represent people like you or I that may be out on the street that are driving through a train crossing and get smacked by a train or hit by a train. We would help those people out as well.
Well, I guess one of the questions for people that may not understand it as well as you is, I drive a car, right? We have teenagers who drive cars. In order for that, we obviously have insurance. And so those are things that happen in the consumer market. And although logically it makes sense, trains are much larger objects, and you don't cut your finger in a car accident, you lose your finger immediately, right? Because the thing is just so big. Why is it such a specialized area with all of those regulations different than what you and I as consumers have? I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I get it. I mean, we have a big train that goes right by us every day. I mean, that thing's mile long, 2 miles long. I mean, giant piece of metal.
Well, so not only are there state regulations that are affecting railroads and the tracks and the maintenance of the tracks and all of those things, the rocks that you see, which we call ballasts that are around, those must be a certain size. There's also a lot of federal law affecting the railroads, the trains that we see every day, the tracks that these trains are moving on, the way that the employees have to handle these trains every day. So when you have both of those sets of laws, intermingling with each other, it can make for a very complex area of the law.
That is fascinating. So I guess, whenever we have somebody who is an expert in the legal field, we always like to say, hey, what's one of those things that's out there, right? So what are some of the things out there that you're dealing with in your area and practice of law that is noteworthy? Somebody that, I'm sitting here listening to you as a person that probably will never drive a train or ever work in a train yard. So I am only going to be from that consumer side. What are some of the things out there that are, kind of on the hot buttons that are out in the area of law that you practice?
Really, it has to do with the safety of these employees that are working on the railroad. So making sure that when they go to work every day, the railroad is responsible for their safety. They are responsible for teaching them and training them properly how to do their job on the railroad. They're responsible for making sure that the trains that are moving in and out of the yards are doing so in accordance with the law. And those things are really hot button issues as far as safety is concerned, but also, I'm dealing with cases where trains are running into each other. So we have head-on collisions. We're dealing with things like that. I've got a case like that going right now. We're dealing with car versus train collisions. We're dealing with all types of anything involving a train, we're dealing with it. And whether it's the maintenance of the train, the way that it's going down the track, whether it's the track itself, whether it's putting the track together, whether it's making sure that the crossings are in accordance with the law, all of those things have to do with railroad law. And so it's a lot of nuanced areas put together that we're constantly dealing with. So no case is ever going to be the same.
So as we take it away, it's always fun and interesting to see how people get into the line of work, right? There's always the, well, why'd you become a lawyer, right? Why'd you become a dentist, right? What inspired you to go down this area of law? Because that is a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche.
It really is.
Wow.
I will tell you that, a lot of people, I would say probably 95% of lawyers that you ask, why did you go to law school? Why are you a lawyer? And the common answer is to help people. My answer is a little bit different. When I was little, my dad worked for the railroad, and he was actually hurt on the railroad. And that injury cost him his job. And because of that, he was the breadwinner for our family. that was the only career that he knew. And so it was very difficult for him to try to wait for his lawsuit to be finished, because that's how we handle under FELA. We handle this, there's no workers' comp, so it was a lawsuit, but also try to find a new career and continue to take care of us 4 children and my mom, and put food on the table for us and provide Christmas for us. And that was really hard for him, and it was a really hard time for our family for those number of years. So that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, is because it has affected our family personally. And I understand what these people are going through when they're hurt in a car accident or a train accident or at work on the railroad. But also, the lawyer that handled my dad's case took 5.5 years to finish his case.
Wow.
And that's really hard on a family when that was our bread and butter, was my dad's career. That's
Wow.
what put that food on the table for us. And so when an attorney is taking forever to finalize a case, it could mean divorce, it could mean bankruptcy, it could mean so many different things besides
Homelessness even.
Yeah. But I've had clients say, hey, I can't make my house payment anymore, I don't have a job, I need help. And so for us, that's why we're a little bit different than other law firms. And I think what sets us apart is really me understanding exactly what that employee is going through, or the person that's been in a car accident or something like that, but also just being able to get the case done and over with without compromising the value of the claim. We are moving cases, we are not letting cases sit around. That's what's very important for us, is making sure that your case is handled, and it's handled in an orderly fashion. We're meeting weekly with every employee at the firm, where it's a team effort handling your case, and we're going to make sure that it's done as quickly as it can be done, and it's not sitting around.
That's fantastic, and thank you so much for sharing that personal story. It's interesting how people get there, and it's clear how you got there and why you're so passionate for your clients. What we'll make sure to do is we'll hang your website link, so check you out, check out your story about your firm and all that stuff on our website on thedailynewsnetwork.com. But I really appreciate you coming and sharing both your inspiration of your story as well as what you do for clients every day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today, Steve.
You're welcome. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today on Raising the Bar. If you like us, share us. Remember, live with gratitude.